Well, Sláinte, good evening. How are we? Hope everyone is 46 sleeps. That sounds crazy, Stephen Quinn. 46 sleep. I can't deal with that now. I mean, you've now put me in a conundrum. 46 sleeps. Oh my lord. It's not that. That's not long. No, that's really not a long time away. I'm proper excited by that. So tonight, I'm going to say this wrong. I'm really going to be. I'm going to get pulled up again about how I say the name. Baoilleach, Baoilleach. Michael's going to obviously criticise me and tell me how bad I am at saying it and pronouncing it. So I'm so sorry, but looking forward to this. Evening, William. How are we? Connor, good evening. Peter, yes. Hello, Brendan. Ian, how are we? Look, Michael, you're there in the background. Can you hear me okay? Yes. You can hear me all right? Yes. And you want to come in? Yeah, he's up for it. John, I don't know what. I don't find any time. Time is not happening. Here we go. Baoilleach. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Good to see you, Aidan. How are you? Happy Pappy, Robert, indeed. Right, so let's bring you in. Okay, let's see if this works. Bring you into stream. Hello, how are you?
How are you doing?
I'm very good. Very good. That might be better where your camera's situated. How are you?
Not too bad. No, not too bad. Just about getting the technology going there.
I was freaking out, going. He's there, but he's not there. I can't see him.
Permissions, and allow the camera on, all this stuff.
Right, Michael, tell me this: is it Michal or Michael?
Either. It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me. I love the name Michal. I think it's beautiful. So I'm happy calling you whatever you would like to be called. But let's get the name of the distillery. Let's get it right. Is it Baoilleach?
Baoilleach. Yeah, Baoilleach.
Okay.
It's a tough one, but
it is an actual tongue teasing one. It's just that in Scotland, so the Baoil is Bale.
Yeah, that's Baoil here.
Okay.
So Baoilleach.
Right.
Because my surname is O'Boyle, so that's the Irish of O'Boyle. It should be O'Boyle. So Baoilleach. So it'd be like Jameson, but if you Gaelicized it,
And what does it translate to? What does this then translate to?
It's kind of O'Boyle. And
so the distillery of O'Boyle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a double kind of thing as well, but we won't get into that.
You can get into whatever you like. I'll just call it the distillery of O'Boyle, so I don't get criticised for saying it wrong. Here, Connor's going to say the dialect of Gaelic makes a difference also. I'm sure it does.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a word that came out of Mayo, so it isn't even a Donegal. It's more of a Mayo Irish because my father's from Mayo, down Knackle Island. So
dead on. Sorry, did you say Scraggy Island?
It's not far off.
Listen, it's an absolute pleasure getting you on here tonight, and I do mean that. Very, very buzzing to have you on. So thank you very much.
Oh no, it's great to be here.
And listen, the fact you're going to be involved in the festival. Look, we spoke last year, way before our festival last year, and I was buzzing to get you on, and you just weren't up for it. You were like, I'm just not ready. I just can't do this. We're just not ready. We're not in that place to be people yet, and we don't know where we're at in that respect. And so it's taking you a good 12 months, to get to even where you're at. So, but you've been very progressive in that time, like very progressive.
Yeah. Well, it's as everybody knows, it's that's doing distilling. It's a tough game to get into, and it takes a lot of investment, a lot of work, a lot of effort. And when you're very small and you're coming at it from a kind of just a very small scale, one man kind of show, that just takes time, and you have to build and build and build. And you start off with a small tank, you get a bigger tank, you push it on a bit and a bit and a bit, and eventually you get to where you wish you were at the beginning, but that just takes time. And the thing about it is you just learn a lot more that way, I think.
There's a lot of people out there who will just not know who you are, and just really not know where this distillery's come from, what it's about.
Yeah,
you've got 40 minutes to really splash out, tell us everything, or tell us nothing.
Oh yeah, of course.
You can tell us nothing, but you can tell us everything. You can come out in there and just say, listen, here's what's happening. This is what it's all about, and look, I think from our conversations, I'm just buzzing for it, because so far you explained to me, look, at some point you want to be doing the whiskey, but specifically, it's mad about the Poitín right now. Mad about the Poitín.
Yeah, well, the Poitín is kind of where I started, and there's a big tradition of Poitín here in Donegal, obviously, but and it goes back, to the 1800s. Even this little parish here, I think there was 140 Poitín distillers just in this little parish. It's only 7 or 8 kilometers by 10 kilometers or something, and obviously that all died off, but there's still guys, doing it. And I got into distilling more out in New Zealand, where it's legal to home distill. And I'd done a little bit of, messing around with craft brewing, but then the distilling kind of was a lot more interesting to me anyway. And I started doing the distilling out in New Zealand, and then I came back here, and I was working in Dublin, and kind of, had a good idea that I wanted to do this. And then I managed to get this little shancha here, and I decided I'm going to put a distillery in there and kind of restart Poitín making pretty much here in Donegal, and that's what I've started doing, and I'm just pushing it as far as I can. The GA isn't allowing me to do what I want really, but you're trying to stay within the lanes until they get changed, and hopefully they're going to get changed pretty soon. But
I like your optimism. And you know what? Where I think there's conversations, and there's lots of people who have different ideas about what can be done. Going forward. It's not. I don't think it's for some people. I mean, I know there's Brendan Carty's in watching tonight, but there's some people who are steadfast on changing the rules quickly and getting it done, and But I think there's a sea change with people in the industry looking for that change. So I'm sure it's when you have so many people, so many distilleries, so many outlets looking for a change in the rules. That's that's what the association's there to help. Bring about, is to bring about change for good, change for better, for it to make I suppose the industry a better place. And if we can get everyone working together like that, I'm sure, Michael, your prayers will be answered. Hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully.
Yeah, and the thing is that Poitín is a spirit in its own right. It isn't a subcategory or some kind of new make or anything. It is its own category completely, and that's the way it should go. And that's with the addition of the root vegetable and hopefully the fruit. How much more different from whiskey do you want it to be? It's alcohol, it's a spirit, but it's its own spirit, and that's what I think it's going to have to revive to.
And that's interesting. I mean, you see the suppose you see the benefit of going to the to the extremes and using root vegetables and potentially using fruits and different different parts of it in the poitín creation. Whereas some people still stick to, no doubt, that kind of whiskey-esque poitín. And there's room for that. There's room for that as long as the category is opened up to allow us to have fun.
There's going to be people that go to one side of the category and other people that go to another.
Yeah.
And that's what the total category is about, encompassing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then whiskey is over here. Whereas there's some poitín that might be a little bit like whiskey, but then there's lots of poitín that has nothing to do with whiskey. And we can't stop a whole category just because it's similar to some whiskey. That's the way I see it. Because there's poitíns out there that can be clear poitín, like original poitín, and then it's flavored, it's macerated in fruits, and there's flavorings added to it, and it never goes near a barrel. That has nothing to do with whiskey. But then there is a whole sector that could be in a barrel, and also a whole part of it that could be in the mash bill. It could be 70% barley. It could be 20% a root vegetable, 10% fruit.
Yeah.
That still has no similarity to whiskey. It's giving you a totally different flavor profile. And that's it's the same thing in whiskey. You add a certain grain to give you a characteristic, and the same in poitín.
And that's interesting, because if whiskey has its own rules and regulations, which at the moment it does, so it has its own rules and regulations. It's 3 years. It's in a wooden cask. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be in some sort of wooden cask, and it's those types of rules that equals whiskey. So we get that. That's brand new. But I mean, I suppose poitín, if and it has its own kind of, I suppose it has its own rules at the moment specific, but creating that vibe, poitín vibe, poitín, and allowing it to expand at its own rate, expand within its own kind of rules. Because actually, a question I would have for anyone who distills, what separates the idea of gin distilling and putting gin in a barrel for 10 years? Like I don't know what it tastes like after 10 years. It would probably taste like muck, but or maybe it tastes amazing, but it's not whiskey, and it's not trying to be whiskey. It's just barrel-aged gin, and as long as it's following the gin protocol.
The same thing with poitín. If I could meet you in 20 years and hand you a glass of 20-year-old, barrel-aged poitín that was made with, a big percentage of root vegetable, a big percentage of fruit, what does that have to do with whiskey?
No, I know. Michael, give me 1 second. Bear with me just now. I just need to make sure that I have a plumber here just now who's sorting out my kitchen. For those that are watching who have been following this for the last month, they'll understand that my kitchen is my main priority right now. Not the festival. I don't give about the festival. I care about getting my pit. Kitchen's been on the go for a couple of weeks now. Needs sorted. So give me 1 second while I just confirm with him what the crack is. But you can listen. What you should do is nip through a couple of these questions here. If anyone's got any questions for Michael,
I don't see any questions here.
Oh, can you not see them? Right. Well, there's a couple there. So let's have a wee look here.
There's comments.
There's John says. John says, nosing through 3 of Michael's samples of aged poitín goes from earthy to peppermint and carpet to smoked salmon and bacon. So he's making some real comparisons about your poitíns. So have a wee word with the audience there about these poitíns. Well, I just asked this plumber what he's still doing in my house at this time of night. Right, give me a second.
Yeah. Well, I'm making at the minute. I'm just making a poitín. It's a mash full of malt barley and potato, and that's kind of what I'm sticking to. But you can get a huge variation between the clear poitín, the original poitín, and the barrel aged poitín. Because the poitín itself, the clear original poitín, you really can put an insane amount of flavor into it to begin with, and then the barrel kind of mutates that flavor and you know, pushes it on. I'm just trying to sort this out here. Do I add sugar? No, I don't add sugar. You actually aren't allowed to add sugar. It's not in the GA. Sugar gives a certain flavor that you can, you know, you can have a small amount of it, but I don't think it would go well in large amounts. And Kit Chars, you and Brendan Blind columns there. I don't really know what that means, Kit, but Aidan Kennedy, very true, but the support wouldn't be there unless the quality was there. When I say quality, I mean flavour and mouthfeel. Well, the quality and mouthfeel, I think, is very, very good in Poitín. It's all about the distillation. Slow pot or small pot, slow distillation is what Poitín's pretty much all about. Like this pot over here is around 350 litres. Brendan was asking me to show you this bit of kit. So that's my 350 pot, and it takes about 300 litres, 310 litres, and as you can see, it comes up. There's the first valve up here where you can use it pretty much as a pot still. It goes straight across here into the condenser, and you get a pot still. Then you can distill straight up, over, down. This is terrible camera work here. And then into the column. And I have 4 plates, and it's called a deflagrator, which is it's like a small chamber that has lots of pipes running through it, and you can pump in water, and it causes reflux down the column, and that can be controlled. And then it rises up and across down into the condenser. So you can run two totally separate styles of distillation, and you know, each style has its own version, its own flavors, its own kind of feel to it. The guided tour, right? So that's the kind of distillation area just there, and if you go out here, there's a construction on. That's just the countryside there. Mulroy Bay's just straight down there. This is the kind of the distillation mash house, I suppose. That's my tiny little mash tun. That really needs to be upgraded. And we've got a few 700 litre fermenters, just 2 of those. And these are smaller little fermenters to do smaller batches and to cool the wort before I put it in for fermentation. and you know it's just storage tanks essentially. And then you're coming out into this area here, which is the kind of bottling hall, little bottling hall. You know, a couple of sinks, the old washing machine over there. That's just all barley and oats that need to be gone through. They're from a local farmer here in Donegal, and just you know, storage, bottles, you know, more bottles. You know, that's the barrels. You know, these are all. Well, some of this is whiskey. Those two French wine barrels. One of them's full. Some of this is Poitín. You know, then you're going out. That's my house there where I live. I don't know if you can just see down there that there's a tin roof. That's going to be a smokehouse.
That's a visitor centre, surely, Michael.
Well, not yet. Anyway, not yet. You know,
absolutely brilliant. You're giving a tour and everything here. We don't get this. This is a new one for this Sláinte. Getting a tour.
You know, that's the view down there. There, Mulroy Bay is way off in the distance, and you know, it's kind of you know, a bit of construction going on here. You know, there's timber and planks and sand and all sorts of stuff.
So there's a question here. What did this used to be then? What did it used to be?
This house actually was there was a family called the Browns, and they first came to this area around 1860. They might have been here before that, but that's the first kind of record of them. And this room here was actually their house. So I think something like 8 of them or 9 of them grew up in this room.
Wow.
And then a lot of them obviously emigrated and headed off. And then I'd say maybe in the early 2000s, the last of the family kind of died off. And then the place was derelict, completely derelict for 7 or 8 years. And then I came along and we just bought it and started renovating it. You know, renovations probably 2-3 years just for that, and then another 2 years to get a license. And yeah, I'd say it's nearly been 2 years already since I started producing. And you know, it's to me, it's all been a good journey. You know, it takes time, but sometimes, you know, the journey is the fun.
So are you now the smallest distillery in Ireland?
I would say I'm the smallest grain distillery for sure.
Right.
I'm sure. I think there could be a couple of gin people maybe that have smaller stills, but when you're buying an alcohol at 96%,
mm-hmm.
it's a totally different scenario, you know.
Yes.
But when you're running 320 liters or 310 liter capacity still, I don't know if there's anybody smaller. I don't know if they'd be mad enough to go smaller.
That's brilliant. It just, you know, it's fun looking. It just looks like crack.
Well,
there's a lot of comparisons here. There's a couple of guys in here who are very familiar with Brendan Carty and what he's doing down in Cologne. There's a lot of comparisons here. It's very canny, the comparison level. You know, there's a sweater. You both are wearing sweaters at most of the times. Do you know what I mean? That's country boys for you. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but you know what the real comparison is? That there's going to be a lot of similarities, because if you want to do this on a small scale, this is the way you have to do it. Yes. There is no other way, and that's it. If you want to own it and do it the way you want to do it and do what you want to do, this is the only way. And you know, there'll be another guy coming along behind us and behind him and behind the next guy, and they'll all do the same way, because it's the only way. You have to.
Yes, okay.
You know.
Are these flame fired stills?
Yeah. This is direct gas. Fired.
Let's run through some comparisons because I'm just wanting to do that just while you're here. Jumper, number 1. 2, Culture. 3, you both buggered off to the other half of the world. You know, he went to Australia, you went to New Zealand just to understand that you wanted to do this.
He's an architect. Awesome. I'm an engineer.
You're an engineer. That's wildly weird. This is weird. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm sure as Brendan knows, knowing some technical stuff, you know, it's the difference between doing it and not doing it.
Yes. Okay.
You know, like if you saw the price of what it takes to get a guy to do a certain thing for you, you know, there's the reason why people are dropping $1 million on a distillery and their capacity is only, you know, 2,000 liters or something, you know, or they're running 1,500 liter stills and they've spent X amount of money. It's very intensive.
Oh, listen, I know all about tradesmen just now. I mean, I had to go and deal with my tradesmen just now. That's okay. Tradesmen are good crack. Cheers, tradesmen. Thanks very much. My builder, number 1 builder, my plasterer,
you see that?
My spark, my plumber.
Oh yeah,
all good people.
Yeah. Well, there's certain things I'm not even gonna go at, but you know, it's like this book here.
Yep.
You know, there's a huge amount of history in that book about Donegal Poitín, obviously, and if you look through it, all the stills that were seized by the revenue men were all around. They ranged between about 100 liters up to 400 or 500 liters. You know, that's what they were running. All those guys that were doing Poitín making around Donegal, and you know, when I think in Inishowen there was 1,300 at one stage, and it was all 1 or 2 man enterprises, and they're running small stills. You know, what myself and Brendan, and if there's another guy out there doing a similar thing, we're just following exactly what they did because it's the necessity of it.
But instead of those, I mean, don't get me wrong, those guys were doing it for, in the main, doing it for their local communities. You know, there was a lot more people living in those areas. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot more people living in those areas than there are now. Oh.
We have a caller there.
But so slightly different. You're looking. I mean, you hopefully can sell your wares all around the world, and you know, create a bit of a name for yourself and a bit of a stir for yourself. Those guys before you didn't really have that opportunity. They also didn't really have the opportunity of it being in a position whereby it was deemed as now being illegal. You know, and I suppose kind of prosperous as well. Opportunity. There's the opportunity to actually make a buck here. You know.
We'll see.
Well, you're saying that, Michael, just like it's like freaky out. You know, you're freaking out because you've spent a lot of money, you put a lot of effort in. But look, there's a massive whiskey community here who are buying into the idea of Poitín, but they're buying into like longer term goals. They want to support small businesses. I mean,
yeah.
You know, so don't be frightened of knowing that people will come out and look. We're going to get to taste some of your whiskey. Some of the lucky people over the festival get the chance to taste what you're doing. Some of these Poitíns that we're running through. You look.
Well, I do have some of the new make, the whiskey, because now hopefully around January I have a piece of equipment ordered and I'll be pretty much installing it and then going for the full GA for Irish whiskey. That's the plan.
Good.
You know, that's all en route, but you know, until it's here, until it's installed, you know, that's you know. That the day the revenue give me the piece of paper, you know, that's going to be the happy day, and just keep planning and you know, a lot of work just to do. You know, you have a barrel house to, you know, I have a barrel house there. I just need to renovate it, and the smokehouse is kind of nearly finished, and I'll be you know, I want to go into the kind of more heavily peated stuff as well. That's my.
Are you doing any sidelines for those smokehouses? You're putting in some nice bits of meat, putting in some fish and stuff. We're getting some nice. I'm just saying.
I do know somebody. There is a guy locally here that does smoked salmon. I've been getting a bit of advice off. There's a lot of crossover between smoking barley and or oats and smoking salmon, and there's a lot you can do. There's a lot of peated stuff out there, but there's a lot of other woods and other things that you can do. I know that in a place like Texas, they've mesquite and all these types of things, but there's an array of things you can do there as well. But peat is the main flavor I'll be chasing, essentially.
I'm just looking through. There's a couple of wee things. Aidan was asking what chocolate was I eating there. It was like a it's called Darker Galaxy. I don't know if anyone. I eat chocolate in these sessions all the time. One, because I need the energy. And usually I'm drinking some whiskey with it, but I was uber busy up until this point, so I've not even had the chance to take a drink this evening. I really should just crack something open and just get drunk.
Have a drink. Well, I'm on the Poitín. This is
your Poitin's ready to get bottled, so I don't have any of that to hand, which is unfortunate. I will. All right, okay. I'll just grab something. Let's have a look here. There was a couple of stuff that comes through. Yeah, how often do you distill? And how much product do you produce per year? That's a really interesting question, because not a lot.
Yeah. Well, like production is kind of at the minute a little bit stop-start, because you're trying to do all the construction work, and you're trying to sell, and you're trying to distill and kind of refine your methods. And if you want to come along and develop a product, I suppose it was a Poitín with a mixed mash bill of fruit or root potato, that just takes time. That just takes time to develop, and you're not going to get it maybe first time. And the same thing with smoking barley, malting barley, playing around with cuts, and the whole process just takes time. And there's at times you might be trying to develop something with a new mash bill, and it could take a week to produce 30 or 40 liters, because you just have to pay attention and learn from the experience, because you're going to bring that knowledge on. You're the first couple of years for me have just been about learning, and then you're going to bring that forward to when you have the production capacity to really enact it in a more in a more productive way. But probably at the minute, if I was going full steam, doing like Donegal whiskey, it would be probably a half a barrel a week, and that would be easily achievable, half a barrel. That would probably be maybe 3 days production, 4 days. But when I get the next still, I'd be hoping to be up to probably one to 2 barrels a week. 2 would be full on, 5, maybe 6 days a week. But it's oh, geez, these little stands aren't much good.
See, I've got one of those iPad Pro things, and it's got its own little. I have a keyboard for it. It just sits nicely, but it's the camera's awful though, because the camera's away over here, right? And I'm like, if I want to look over there, I just look like I'm squinting constantly. We've got some good questions, I think. What type of what style of whiskies are you planning? What kind of whiskies is it? Is it going to be is it going to be malt whiskies? Is it going to be double, triple distilled? How's that work? And or is it going to be pot still whiskies? What's the?
Well, I have launched this cask program, the Acorn series.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And I was going to come on. I wanted to talk about that because I was like, I saw that and I was like, is he serious? I haven't. He didn't even say anything like that, and I thought I'd like to talk about that. I want to talk about that in the show.
Yeah. So essentially, it's called the triple trinity, and it's peat, style, wood. So you have the peat, and inside the peat there'll be 3 levels of peat, and it's called the Son, the Father, and the Holy Smoke. So the Son is medium maybe.
All those wee priests turning. They're turning right now, right?
Oh well, poor them. I'm sure they'd like a drop. But then the Father is kind of you're fairly peaty, and then the Holy Smoke will be the a peat monster essentially. That's what I'd be going for. And then the style is double distilled pot still. So single malt, all malt, single malt pot still. Then the next style would be pot still, obviously with unmalted barley and other, oats, rye, maybe. I haven't kind of exactly pinned down exactly what I want there. And then the last style is the 4 plate, which would be using, the 4 plates here in the column, which gives you a different style of liquid completely. It's not grain whiskey. It's not pot still. It's kind of it usually tends to give you a fruitier type of spirit, and it usually brings through pretty intense flavors, of a like if you were doing a double distilled pot and you did a 4 plate, the exact same mash, you would have peat showing up, but they would both be totally different. The flavors, not totally different, but they would have different qualities to them. And then the wood is bourbon, virgin, or fortified wine, and you have a pick there between port and sherry. And there's 27 combinations, and you get to pick your combination. And cool. I'll produce it, and it'll all be coming out of that little still over there.
It's an interesting proposition for people. It really is, and interesting. You've kind of announced it just now. I think there'll be a lot of interest in it. I really do. Oh, someone's put a link up. Look at that. Look. You put a wee link up there, John. Here, he must be loving what's going on there. We'd like to see the rest of the distillery, Peter. What do you mean the rest of it? I think he showed you everything, apart from the toilet. He just
there is no toilet.
Not yet. Anyway. Are you planning on aging any Poitín?
Oh yeah, well I already have a series of aged Poitíns. I've got a portwood Poitín, a sherrywood Poitín, a peated and port Poitín, a virgin oak Poitín. They're all within the 10 weeks, and that gives you great freedom to see what your spirit can do, because then you're getting those results in 10 weeks, and just the learning curve is sharp, and you can really learn a lot, like when you're distilling in these small batches, because you can take risks. You can take risks that other distilleries just can't afford to take. If I have to get rid of a batch. Okay, it's so many bags of barley and it's a day or two of my time, but I'll get over it and move on and learn.
When production's that small, that's maybe okay. When you upscale, when you start to get bigger, you don't want to lose time. You don't want to lose product like that.
But that's what these first 2 years have kind of really been about, is trying to refine down your methods and your mash bills and know what works. There's some things that you try, and it takes time to figure out exactly what's happening. Not even a chemist can tell you what's happening. You're going to have to keep going until you really figure out what the issue is, and that could be the fermentation or a distillation or even the wood itself, the barrels. Just to know where it can bring you. And I'm sure it's the same with a lot of distilleries. They're doing the same thing, but they probably try and stay in a wee bit more of a safer.
They do. There's not many that go against the grain. I mean, do you like Turnick's tea cakes?
I'll tell you something. They're one of my favourites now, but only in Glasgow. You need to eat in Glasgow.
I'd be eating here one right now. You know what I mean? And it's sorry, I poured myself a wee drink, but I won't tell you what it is. But it's nice, so it's really good, and it's only 5 years old. So if anyone I'm drinking a 5-year-old single malt. It was really good. So there you go. Cast strength. Anyway, so dip it in the whiskey. No, watch this, right? Oh, God.
Oh, you need all that, that sugar, Paul. Keep you buzzing now.
Mate, we're 100%. I don't have time to sleep. So yeah, R&R, no doubt, Paul. You're funny. You're funny, Sean Carter. It's not R&R, not R&R. But you know what? I'm looking forward to R&R. I'm looking forward to that. So where can I buy the Poitín? Online on your shop? Yes.
Yeah. Just go to the website, www.baoilleachdistillery.ie.
Baoilleach.
Yeah.
Baoilleach Distillery. I'm going to get that. That's me.
Yeah.
Baoilleach. I'll get that.
Well, it's like if I go over to Glasgow, well, funnily enough, my next door neighbours from Glasgow, my other next door neighbours from Glasgow, my other next door neighbours from Glasgow.
Piss off! All the Ouija's out in Donegal.
Yeah, Donegal is full of Glaswegians.
Full of Ouija's.
Yeah, it's honestly it's It's what I'm sure you heard of Tatty Hoken.
Tatty Hoken, aye.
Yeah. Well, that's why everyone went to Glasgow.
I'm a country boy as well.
Yeah. Well, that's what the big connection here is, and obviously Celtic football club and all that stuff. But no, there's lots and lots of Glaswegians here.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Well, everyone's got a granny from Donegal. So I heard. Although my granny's from Cushendall, but you know what I mean. But it's that part of the world. But I know Donegal. So
your accent is it's music to my ears, Paul.
My accent. Oh, that's very kind of you, mate. Oh, Michael, very kind. You're very kind. You're very kind. You're too kind. Listen. People are going to get to taste this, so if people want to get involved, they can get your introduction tasting kits for the festival. Really looking forward to that. Actually, want to share that. Really want to share the love and get people tasting it. But you know what? You're going to find a lot of people, and I do mean this. Be very hopeful, and I mean that. There's a lot of good work being done by a lot of good people, a lot of great distilleries, and there's not a bad one yet. Well, there's some people who proclaim to be the most amazing things since sliced bread. They need to just relax on that front, but just get with the program. There's a lot of people who are very interested in whiskey and watching a big journey unfold here in Ireland. You know, they want to see quality stuff and new and interesting stuff. You're really going to bring to the fore again this idea of Poitín. Part of the festival, we really want to talk about Poitín, so we want to see Poitín tastings. We've got yourself, we've got Cologne will have a Poitín tasting, we'll have Michael will have a Poitín tasting as well. I think there's something coming from maybe a group of people who are doing some work together. Look, it's just nice to see, and I want to talk and have that. We're going to have a debate specifically. We've got a couple of debates in the festival, so a couple of Q&A sessions, a couple of debates. One debate is on terroir. That'll be great crack, because everyone's talking about terroir, surely. It's the biggest discussion of the year, is terroir, or it was last year. This year it's all about Poitín. So this year is about Poitín, and we're going to talk about Poitín, and we want people to come on board and have lots of, debate about Poitín, because there's going to be people who really have an interest on that category, where it goes and what happens there. So
yeah, well, Poitín is the predecessor of whiskey. So before there was whiskey, there was Poitín, and if you have an interest in whiskey, it seems like you would have an interest in Poitín. It kind of follows each other there, but they are different spirits, and I think Poitín is just it's starting to revive itself and just come of age a little bit, and
and I don't think Poitín needs to be. I mean, I don't think it needs to have that heritage reminisce about it. I don't think it needs to be that, the old boys coming down the hill and giving it into the local bar and getting wasted without buying a pint. I think it needs to move away from that. I think it needs to have its own identity. People need to be able to, do you know what? There's a funny comment made to Brendan on his release of the Cougar set. Some guy wrote on social media, they're chatting away, and he went, "Oh, look at those yuppies doing a Poitín thing, blah blah blah," and we were just like, "You're missing the point here, laddie. It's not yuppiness. It's not fucking, it's not trendy. It's not uber fucking cool, whatever it is. It's actually about turning that around and having that conversation. Now that Poitín is different to the Poitín that potentially will have the fruits and the veg and everything else in it, and it's maybe more of a traditionalized kind of whiskey-esque Poitín to it, but it's still Poitín, and it's the conversation is about the Poitín. So I want people to think about I really want to think people about the identity of Poitín. That's really important. So I'm for it. I'm for this idea that we create Poitín in a way in which distilleries feel comfortable to do it. You know what I mean? That you feel comfortable to create it the way you want to create it. Yes. That you're not restricted. So hopefully we have that debate, and hopefully people will listen to that conversation. Someone's bought some of your Poitín just now. So the Portwood and the peated Portwood have just been purchased by Aidan Kennedy. Well done. Hope you enjoyed that. That's great.
Your mic is gone crazy here on my end, but
well, I'm sorry, but I heard you okay.
You're hearing me okay?
Yes.
No, I can hear you. It's just echoing or something. It's not. But I heard what you were saying.
Well, I don't think people, if they were getting an echo, they would come back in and they would query that just now. So if people are getting an echo, sure, let me know. It's probably nothing I can do about it. It's probably because the subtitles are going that quickly. Do you see the subtitles? You won't see the subtitles.
No, I don't see the subtitles. I suppose nobody understands your accent, Paul.
But do you know what? I sound awful in whatever accent I put on. So I would try. I would try and speak in different accents, but it all sounds awful.
No, but yeah. Well, I suppose how many Poitín makers is there now in Ireland? I think is there 7.
Legalized Poitín.
Yeah, legalized.
Yeah, not that many. Yeah, I mean, less than 10. And you know what? They're the ones that are out of those 10. Yeah, how many are trying to do it authentically, without like, just coming along for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, maybe about 7, 8, something like that. Tell me this, though, in terms of the legal poitín makers, is there still many around Donegal? Is there still? I mean, do you come across people? Do they have the pitchforks at your door saying, "What you doing, mate? You know what I mean? We're making the poitín. What you all about?"
I could put it like this: locally, people would say to me, "Jesus, that poitín's well expensive," because I can buy it from so and so back the hill there, and it only costs 14 euros or 15 euros a bottle. That's the kind of thing I'm going to hear out of every second person that talks to me about poitín. That's just the truth. And good luck to them. Like I'm going to try and bring it to the pubs and to places maybe outside Donegal where there isn't such intense competition. But this is the reality. Just around here, I know there's 2 or 3, and there's a few more further afield, and that's just the way it is. And good luck to them.
You mean there's 2 or 3 more in the other field, is what you meant to say?
Yeah.
And
you know what I mean. I've tasted, their product, and I still think my product's better, and that's that. So, I'm happy out. But this is just the way it is, and you could go down to other parts of the country or other parts of the county, and it's going to be a similar story. And a lot of the older guys that were doing it are unfortunately starting to die off. But and people even for me, I don't know any of these guys by name. They're not going to be letting you in and showing you the crack because they're all very secretive, and even amongst themselves, I don't think many know what the others are doing, and you can taste it in their drinks, what they're making the spirit from, and some I'm not so sure that it would be 100% grain. That's all I could say.
I think it's interesting, like the way you are in a situation where, first of all, you're the only am I right in saying you're the only legitimate poitín maker in Donegal?
Yeah.
So at some point you might get, and you maybe look for the title Donegal poitín or Donegal whiskey potentially as part of your labeling. Look, I'm not telling you should.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's something you are thinking about.
Well, for me now, I'm any whiskey I produce here at the minute, I don't have GA for it, so I can't call it Irish whiskey. So I'm going to call it Donegal.
You're going to call it Donegal whiskey.
Well, what option do I
No, you're
have?
quite right.
To me, it should be 3 years.
You could call it. To be honest, surely the way in which it could be said is Donegal Ishkaba, and all of a sudden you're actually you're avoiding every freaking
Well, Ishkabaha is in the GA, so they covered that.
Did they? Even with the annex Donegal.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm just going.
Freaking Donegal Water of Life, and you can't get away with that. That's bad. Bad.
Yeah. Well, you see, for me at the minute, I'm producing whiskey, but it's all part of the learning curve, and you're exploring it, and you're exploring the malt, and and the peat, and you're kind of this still produces a certain style of spirit, And every distillery, between the water and, you know, just the environment, and, you know, there is a certain mystery to how, you know, a distillery comes up with their spirit. You know, if you move this entire distillery down the road, you know, 10K, would it taste different? You know, nobody really knows that. And it just mightn't just be about, you know, the still or the ingredients or the gas, or, you know, there could be something else. I don't know exactly what you might, you know, some mystical force or something it could be, for all I know. But
it's, you know what it is, it's a sheep pissing in the water, which makes all the difference.
Yeah, it could be.
Cows in one field, sheep in the other. Nick's just said it is in the GI, and I was, you know, unfair. I'm just curious as to how things can be called certain things. You know, how certain, like, you know, products can be called certain things. And I think, like, I don't write the GI. I'm not part of that world. I'm not part of the creation of rules. Or indeed the enforcement of rules. But what I'm interested in about the conversation about whether or not those rules need to be, you know, changed for either you know, for the better of the industry, but, you know, whether or not it's just I suppose, help a certain few, or if it's to help the masses and help the actual, I suppose, the longer term for us as a consumer, the longer term prospect of having Poitín, you know, as a wider conversation, and actually having its more Poitín on shelves. Will it detract from whiskey on shelves? I really don't know, and I think if it can be supported under similar guise, and if the Irish Whiskey Association are the right people to support a Poitín, you know, movement, potentially that's right, and maybe there doesn't have to be the Poitín Irish Poitín Association. Maybe it comes under the same guy. So there's actually room for these, you know, for these people to work hand in hand.
Yeah, because to me, the present market for, you know, Poitín is so tiny. You know, the actual sales, the annual sales of Poitín are so tiny that growth of the sector, especially outside the country, is, you know, because to me, Poitín just isn't whiskey. So why would somebody, you know, a French guy, you know, why would he think Poitín, Irish Poitín and Irish whiskey are the same thing? You know, to him, they're two totally different things, and they can be in tandem together on a shelf. And it's only bringing, you know, a bigger distilling tradition into Ireland by having the two of them. It's not detracting from whiskey. It's just allowing Poitín to take its, you know, its place. You know, it's like gin and vodka, two different spirits. You know, they can both sell on the shelf, and then it'll just boil down to people's personal choices after that.
Okay, but I mean, look, there's that much spirits on shelf. I mean, rum, you know, you know, Armagnac, cognac, massive amount of different things. You know, there are lots of different liqueurs that are there, and spirits, and, you know, I think, to be honest, I don't think Poitín would make a dent in the whiskey market. I think it complements the whiskey drinker. And that's interesting. So it complements the whiskey drinker. I think there is that interesting question about all those local people. You know, what would they think if the only marketed Donegal Poitín or Donegal whiskey is from yourself, and they're all going as illicit, you know, stills going, nah, man, that's not Donegal stuff. Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not one of us. You know,
I know, but
that's beautiful.
I know, but the thing that is true is, you know, there is no definitives. You know, like whiskey's had 100 years of regulation, or, you know, maybe not 100 years, but back in, when did they legalize to make sure whiskey stayed in a barrel for 3 years? It was about 100 years ago, was it?
Yeah,
yeah. So, you know, they've got 100 years of rules there. That's fine. Poitín never had any rules. I'm as entitled to do what I want as the man on the hillside is entitled to do what he wants. You know, there is no definitives. And anybody who wants to say to me, the only definitive is that I'm paying the taxes on it. You know, that's it. That's the difference. And you know, you can either take it or leave it, kind of, you know, on that basis.
What would you think about? I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot just for a moment, because this is a question that I've had in the background with different people, and I think that it would be nice to see. And just it'd be a one-off, so it'd be like a very small production run. But I would like to see a few different distilleries in different parts of the island running the same mash bill at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
And this is my, you know, so if anyone wants to do this themselves and think that they come up with it, no, son, it was my idea. And actually, I've spoken to a couple of people who I think, do you know what, on a very small scale, so it has to be, you know, a small distillery, the capacity just to go, do you know what, we're going to do this one-off run.
Yeah.
We'll do it small, you know, we'll do one cask, really, we'll select the same casks, you know, the same, you know, we'll go with the same bourbon cask and we'll go for it and just see where we get to in terms of just the processes more than anything else. And I think, you know, I don't want to see that variant that we talked about there a moment ago, and I just think it'd be nice. And I know that someone like yourself, maybe someone that, you know, maybe it's Cologne, and there's a couple of others, you know, that I won't name and shame just now, that I know that I think probably would, if we picked maybe 4 or 5, you know, and went for it.
Yeah, because I do believe that the factors are so enormous that go into the end product, you know, between the water quality, the way you mash, the volume of your mash tun, the concentration of the wort, you know what I mean, the sugar concentration in your wort, you know, your fermentation, your yeast, your ferment temperatures, you know, what you're allowing into the fermentation to change the flavor, how long you're going to leave it there, you know, how much sediment you're allowing to drop out of your wort after fermentation.
Yeah.
Bring it over to the still. Then you have steam, gas, bain-marie, you know, the 3 or 4 different types of equipment. Then you have your cuts for your heads. You've got the temperature you want to run your still at, how long and slow or hot and short. You can dial in the temperature of your condenser to start to condense liquids at a certain temp. You know, and then, you know, you have your cuts. You know, there's 2,000 different variants there that you can play with to allow you to make a different spirit. And that's why nobody can reproduce another person's spirit. And you can try, but you can't.
Exactly. You can try, but we're not. I think that it just shows that beautifulness about the diversity. Yeah. You know, one thing we're going to see, you know, over the course of the next 5 to 10 years is the variance of, you know, we're going to see first of all in County Down, we're going to see a massive populace of whiskey.
Oh.
So County Down is going to see.
County Down is now how many?
It's the metropolis.
Yeah.
Of whiskey distilling. No, I mean, it's where it's happening. But we will see regional variants. We have to see an actual regional taste variant to the point where you can, you know, I'm just looking forward to the day when, you know, I can line up 20, 30 different whiskies and go, oh, do you know what? Yeah. They're all unique enough. It's not that we're complaining just now because we've got lots of great whiskies, you know, that are being utilized from maybe other distilleries, but actually this taste variant, like, just gives me the opportunity to go, I can like that one, maybe not as much as that, and I'll take that one and I'll take this one, and it's just a choice as a you know, as a participant in whiskey drinking. That's what I want. I want choice. It's the same with the festival. We offer a mass amount of choice, like lots
the choices are just they're just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. And you know, I probably first, you know, I drank Bushmills Power Paddy back in the day when there was only 4 or 5. You know, the first bottle, I'd say it was in 2003 or something. I bought 2 bottles of Cheer Connell, going through Dublin Airport.
Yummy.
That was the thing that changed my mind about whiskey. You know, it was just so good. And I thought, Jesus, this is so much different from everything else I've ever tasted. And, you know, then I started, you know, buying mostly Scotch, to be honest, because it had the variety, it had the flavors, you know, the differences in flavors. And, you know, nothing crazy or anything, but just, you know, standard enough bottles of single malt. And that's enough. When there's only 4 types of Irish whiskey, or 4 or 5, mainly, I know it was starting to grow, but you kind of thought, oh yeah, geez, look at all the Scotch stuff, and you'd be over in a whiskey shop, you know, in Oxfordshire, and there's 200 or 300 or 500 bottles in front of you, and you know, you're just glaring at them, and you know, what's all this, you know, and kind of, you know, going through it. That's where Irish whiskey will be in 10 or 15 years. Like this whole thing, triple distilled. You know, I don't know. I don't even know what they're talking about. Like, no, that just makes no sense, or it means nothing to me. You know, this notion of Irish whiskey, I'm going for flavor, as much of it as possible.
Do you know? I think there's some things that set. Yeah, well, there's some things that set the bar, isn't there? So you know, you have lines that are drawn in the sand. So we know that in Scotland it's double distilled. 95% of it is double distilled. So it kind of has its own niche in that respect, really. I mean, it's not really challenged, you know. Whereas in Ireland, you know, you've got Bushmills, really, triple distilled. And then the Cooley stuff
is a lot of double
distilled, a lot of it.
GND, yeah, but that's why
GND have the mix, double, triple.
Oh no,
all those are coming to the fore, and then you've got the pot still, Irish pot still, triple distilled Irish pot still. I mean, is there such a thing as double distilled pot still?
Well, that's what I'm making.
Yeah, exactly. So probably that's what I'm saying. So we have that. Someone was asking questions, and I don't know if it was on here the other night or elsewhere. They were talking about, is there quadruple distilled? Now in Scotland, there's 1 or 2 distilleries that have done quadruple distilled whiskies. I'm not sure how exactly that comes apart. There's some that do 2.5 distilling. There's some that I think it's nice to see Irish whiskey having a subtitle if that's what they want in certain parts. But sure, it will come down to taste. It will come down to
for me, it's just that you know, I don't believe in the pigeonhole of triple distilled. Like,
yes,
to me, it's the, you know, it's a selection, it's the variance. You know, if I could produce a spirit, and you can do it, and you distill it once in a pot still. What would you call that?
Single distilled.
Yeah, and it's possible.
Well,
you know,
I'm not gonna say if it. Hold on, if it goes through that a slow. Am I right in saying that slow enough fermentation process?
Well, it would probably be, you'd have to really push the ABV, the wort, as high as you possibly could.
Okay.
And then it would be a super slow distillation. I think technically you can't even call it. It has to be at least double distilled to be Irish whiskey. But you know,
probably in the rules, probably in that file somewhere.
Yeah, but I've drank, you know, single distilled spirit, and it has its own kind of unique properties that you could, because I think there are some Japanese spirits that are only one single distillation. And you know, that's how they do it, and you know, you're getting just a lot more flavor impact from it. But you know, to me, it's the range. You know, there shouldn't be any you know, typecasting of what Irish whiskey is. And I think the next 10 years, 15 years is going to show that, you know, this triple distilled idea is just out the door. You know, it's old news. I
think it was
my take on
it. It got knocked in the head initially, you know, back when Cooley started.
Yeah. So it's already started. Yeah.
So I mean that was a long time ago. I mean, we're 30 years from that, isn't it? Or since the 80s, really, isn't it? Was it late 80s that we've kind of had double distilling? But yes, I hear what you're saying, and there's going to be a lot of people going, yeah. I mean, does it have to be triple? One of the biggest things that we've talked about in some of these conversations is about this technical term, smooth Irish whiskey. Smooth Irish whiskey. Man, listen, whiskey being produced in Ireland, even some of the pot still now, which is coming out, which I've seen even from IDL, and let's give praise to IDL. Some of that is rough and ready. Some of it is really like, it's meaty. It's not smooth. It's got a bit of teeth to it. But the double distilled automatically gives you that. It is not as refined. It is not as
But at times you might want a smooth whiskey or a more refined whiskey, and other times you don't. It's
yes.
To me, it's just the choice, and the choices, and like I know what you're saying. 20 or 30 years ago, they started doing double distillation, but a lot of the export markets that a lot of this whiskey's going to, it's still been defined as triple. And I'm just saying, with all these new players, like how many distilleries is there? 30 something new distilleries. It's going to be a revolution of
we're just shy of 40 distilleries here.
Yeah.
Penderyn, that's interesting, Connor, that you're saying Penderyn single distill. So Penderyn being the Welsh whiskey. That's really interesting, because if it is single distill.
Oh, but they can do it because there's no GA.
Aye, but that's hold on, but their alcohol content. I mean, I'm tasting some stuff from Penderyn which is in the 60s.
I know, but you can do it on your first distillation. There's a certain like you could heat up the still, get going, and maybe the first hour or hour and a half is going to be that high ABV stuff, and then it's going to drop off rapidly. But you can still get a high ABV. It's just going to be less efficient. They might throw the tails then back into a different batch of their more regular distillation and do it that way. But it's definitely possible. You can do it. It's just not gonna, you're not gonna produce a lot of it. But some of the poaching from the hills would blow your head off. Yeah, it would.
Well, there you go. So he's explaining it they have a custom still that goes between a pot and a column still. Okay. For Penderyn, he's talking about. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm running a cross between a pot and a column. You just choose what you want. It's only one distillation when I'm using the column. It's a four plate distillation. That's what I call it. And I can dial this up to 90% if you really wanted to.
Oh yeah, sure. That's what we need. Lots more alcohol. That's what we need.
Yeah, but when you're making a base for gin or a liqueur or something like that, that's going to work because it's going to strip out all the flavor. And if I wanted to make a column style whiskey, you could do that in that four-plate. But you could also run it in a way where you can produce a far more flavorsome spirit that's going to be closer. Well, it's not going to be like a pot still, but it's going to have its own quality of kind of more fruitiness, and it's going to a little bit brighter, and it can carry a lot of flavor. And you're getting your ABV down at a lower, a lower percentage.
Have you thought about any collaboration work with anyone? Have you thought about doing any collaborative work with any other distillery at the moment, or any other?
Look, I'm open. It's at this stage, anything that can push the boundaries for poaching, especially, I'd be very interested in. because it just needs that momentum, to get it moving. So many people have said it already, that why are people drinking so much vodka? If you want to flavor something, maybe they don't want flavor, they just want alcohol. But poitín can definitely give you a lot of flavor. Like you've drank enough poitín, Paul, at this stage, haven't you? To know.
Very much so.
And
I'm one of those guys. I'm one of those guys. I'll be honest, right? I'm one of those guys that, unfortunately, you're not allowed to do this. But I would happily purchase new make spirit and just drink that. I would happily drink new make spirit and ignore 3 years. I'd be like, listen, lads, do me a wee favour. Get me a wee tiny wee cask. Pour your wee new make into that. Rattle it about for about 3 months. Do you know what I mean? Till the flavour profile's right for me, and then pour it out. So, you know what I mean? Because I've seen what can happen. I have seen the ability of watching new make get to that point. So, look, I think poitín is, look, I've had, because in different countries they call it different things.
Yeah.
But in lots of different countries throughout Europe, I have had their version of poitín, and that's using beets, and it's using, it's using veg, and it's using fruits, and it's using different things.
Yeah.
Getting the potatoes back on board.
Well, Bimber.
Lots of stuff like that.
Bimber.
Yes, the London-based distillery. Yeah.
Bimber is the name for Polish poitín.
There you
go. The guy who runs that place, learned his trade from, illicit distilling in Poland, and that's why he has a similar setup. It's a couple of 1,000-liter stills, and he's doing it the way he knows how, and there's no consultants.
They're pumping out a hell of a lot of whiskey, like.
Yeah. Well, once you know how to ferment something, what's the difference? Middleton, I'll put it like this: once you get up to that kind of scale, there's so many other complications that come into the picture that your efficiencies might actually go down in certain ways, because it's so large. Their cost saving is on the labor rather than the efficiencies of the distillation. I don't know enough about Middleton to be talking anything about them, to be honest, but there is a certain simplicity sometimes is actually better.
Yeah.
And I know that Bimber, they've just started to release stuff, haven't they?
There's a lot of stuff come out of Bimber, like a lot.
Yeah. So
they've nearly released as many bottles of whiskey as Waterford. Probably more than Waterford, potentially. Yeah.
You serious?
Like loads. Bimber are like flying. They've got they're on batch so. I mean, they've got so they've got peated. They've got sherry finished. They've got bourbon on its own. And then they've got they've got batches of these already. So we've got 3 types there, and then you've got batches, maybe up to a third batch on some of them. So there's 9 bottlings. And then we've got single cask of Oloroso, or single cask of Piet, or single cask of Port, single cask of all these single casks. Yeah. And then you've just got, there's just a mass amount of single cask offerings going right around the world. They've got it going everywhere. They're putting there's a lot of whiskey.
I've only seen some pictures of their setup, and they definitely have smaller stills, and that might be allowing them to mix, to mix and match and to experiment more, because they don't have that issue with, if it goes wrong, so they're willing to take the chances.
Yeah, well,
take the chances on it. And they could be running, who knows, if you ran those 2 stills 24 hours a day with the right equipment, you could be producing a lot of spirit.
Yeah. I think they're all. I mean, it seems to be it seems to be a big push from them to get the spirit out there. There's a lot of it. Generally, there's a lot. I don't know if it's priced. The secondary market is actually, you know, showing it in some of those bottles as being really, really expensive for my liking, like really expensive.
Yeah, I thought they were like £100 a bottle or something.
Well, I've seen some of their secondary bottlings, you know, top 500, 600, 700
What?
quid just for a single cask, 3-year-old, 4-year-old spirit, guys. You know what I mean? That is mad. Madness.
Yeah, that's up there. I thought they were selling it at like 70, 80 quid a bottle.
I think original RRP, yes.
And then it explodes from there.
It's just exploding. The secondary market for Bimber has been wild, really wild. Look, this is how big they became. I think their fourth, I think it was their fourth release, ended up in Selfridges. You know, that's not. I mean, that's not like. I mean, it's like you go to Brown Thomas, isn't it? Son, you get your Poitín in at Brown Thomas, which I know IDL have just opened up a shop. IDL have now opened up a shop in Dublin with Brown Thomas, and fair play. And I know, Peter, you struggled the other day, but here, you'll get there someday. But it's for them to be in Selfridges. I actually picked up a bottle from Selfridges for of Bimber. It's an Oloroso. I think it's Oloroso finish single cask offering. But yeah, it's a really strange one with them. There's a couple of places like that as small distilleries, you know, you're kind of like, what's going on here? And there's a massive push by the local. I think London. Remember, they're London based.
Yeah,
so automatically, the populace of Donegal versus the populace of London, you know, is
substantially
extraordinary.
Like about you know, if I was going full tilt here, you know, you might hit 30,000 bottles a year. You know, that's kind of the absolute limits, and that would be with the extra still, and you would probably need to do a fair bit of upgrading to get anywhere close to that. But you know, 15,000 or 20,000 is kind of, I would say, my natural kind of limit. And that would take me years to build to. You know, that would take years. Like the 27 casks I'm talking about doing are going to take 6 months to produce.
And that's just now, though. I mean, that's just now. I mean, you can, you know, maybe is there a barn number 2? Can you go next door? Can you create another?
Well, I have 3 acres here. I could create anything I want, but you know, one thing I'm just not going to probably change is the size of the stills. You know.
Okay. So maybe a couple of extra small stills.
You know, that's kind of what I think maybe just gives you a little bit of a difference. I think the ratios have something to do with it. Just the area of flame to the area of, you know, wort to the area of copper, you know, just seems to make a difference.
Yeah.
And you know, if you go just above a certain kind of pinch point, it just changes. You know, that's what I believe anyway. But you know, because I started off distilling in stuff that's far smaller than a 310 liter, and I'm still chasing the things I got out of a 50 liter still that I haven't seen since. You know, once I moved up, it's gone, it's lost. You know, the certain flavors, it just won't happen anymore.
I think Nick's making a point about that cognac limit the size of their stills due to this. It's an interesting point.
Yeah,
it really, really is.
Yeah, that you're just not going to get whatever it is. You know, like there's just certain things that I'm looking forward to trying to recreate from smaller stills, but it just one or two things that just haven't happened. It's impossible to get it to happen. But you know, I can always crack out the little still again and give it a go.
Brilliant. Listen, we're looking forward. We're genuinely looking forward to you at the festival. I'm proper excited for it. I hope you are as well. I hope
Oh no! Hey, I'm in bad need of a night out. I'll put it like that. Like everyone, Jesus, a year and 3 months of this stuff.
Brilliant, absolutely.
Brilliant. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's been partly, this sounds terrible, but it's been partly a godsend because I've been just cocooned essentially in these four walls for a fair amount of time, where you're kind of just going at it and distilling and just working away, and just kind of trying to hone your skills, and that's the beauty about distilling, is just there's so much to it. Like I think I could spend the next 10 years just exploring distilling, more 15, 20 years, and you're still going to just keep finding out new things or exploring. And it's just so interesting. Like, Paul, I know you love drinking whiskey and spirits, but you should really get into distilling whiskey and spirits, because that's, I think, where you would find even more interest.
And you
probably have already.
I think in, like, I've done the cask explorations, so I've looked at how, like, I've made up my own mind, and I know a lot of people will try and tell me otherwise, but I do tend to find that, you could talk about terroir, or you could talk
do you believe in that?
Do I believe in terroir? Well, of course I believe in terroir, because terroir quite specifically is something.
I believe in terroir.
Country boys, surely.
Yeah, so I believe in it, but how much of a percentage of the whole process is it, do you think?
Me, I think maybe about 15-20%. Max. He's away. He's turned me off. He's gone. He's not even joking. He's gone. Oh, I've turned him off. He's away. I can't even do anything about that. He's gone. I hope I didn't offend him. You can come back anytime, Michael. Anytime you want. Absolutely brilliant. Here, just to answer a quick question in here. Who's selling what? That's what I want to know. Didn't touch him. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. He's away on. Terroir's it. He's back. Oh, he's gone. He's literally gone. Oh no, we've lost him. We've lost him. Oh no. Hopefully he comes back in. Hopefully I didn't offend. But it's an interesting question that we want people to think about. Is what is the percent? Is there a percentage that you can put on it? Can you put a percentage on terroir creating much of a difference on the spirit? I think that is a really interesting question thing. He's back. Don't worry. Relax. He's here. I think he meant to. He's back. Look at that. He's. There's only 31 whiskey poaching counties in Ireland now. Yeah, he's away on. That's him. He's given up.
Donegal here. Donegal coverage here is terrible.
Dead on. So you don't believe in terroir then? Fuck terroir. Is that what you just said?
No.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say around 15% as well.
Yeah, I think it's 15-20%. I think, look, my point and why I say this, right? And I don't distill. I've never distilled, and I don't distill, and so I don't know that. But I don't know the middle part, right? So I think there's three parts to this really. There's the terroir, the bit at the start. There's the distillation, and there's the maturation for me. So it's a 3-part process, and that's for me personally.
Fermentation.
Oh, fermentation. Okay, yeah. I mean, look, we add that in. Okay, I'll put that. Okay, okay.
Four stages.
Four stages. Right. Okay. But for me, the biggest part of the whole thing is the cask. And that's me personally. I know a lot of people will say otherwise because I've not been part of that other process. I've not done the fermentation. I have not done the distillation. I've not done that. But what I have noticed is that cask experimental part is really important. So I can take a lot of different spirit from even the one place, exactly the same drops coming off the same stills, exactly the same, and put them into variant casks. And all of a sudden, I've got fucking 20, 30 different whiskies. And I think that is huge. I just think that is huge. Like the length of time that you can mess about with a whiskey just from cask maturation. So I'm assuming that the distillation part, the fermentation part, and the distillation part, because you can talk about slow distillation runs and longer distillation runs. I mean, that's going to make a huge difference. I mean, I think they all have to be taken into consideration. I don't think we can say that one overrides the other particularly, but for me, it would be the cask if I'm going to have the argument. And I think you need people like me on one side saying cask. I think you need someone else on the other side saying terroir. I think you need someone in the middle saying it's fermentation, or someone saying it's distillation, to have the debate, really,
Yeah, but what I would say is that you're right when the spirit is very good quality. Like if you get very good quality spirit and put it into a cask and change the casks, and that, of course, that makes a difference because the quality of the spirit to begin with is good. But to get the spirit to that quality, it's the distillation, the fermentation, the mash, the terroir, and that's the point, that to get the spirit to the quality that makes the casks worth it.
Yes. Okay.
That's the angle I see in it, that without the base quality of the spirit, the casks are worthless.
See, this is why we need the debate. This is why the debate is important. It is an important debate. And I'm a lay person. I'm not involved in the beautifulness that you guys produce and what you guys are doing, because it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new thing.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But we're all on a.
We've got some people here who really are backing these kind of. So Nick Ryan, fair play. It's real. It's not like Santa, and we're talking about terroir then. Well, fermentation, raw ingredients, protein level, starch, etc. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Isn't it great that we're having a conversation? Yes. And it's a multifaceted process. Yes, agreed. Cask is a botanical in Nick's opinion. So it's flavouring the spirit, but it's also how the cask is interacting with the environment. And I think that's one thing I notice when I look at casks and cask influencing from different parts of the world. So like I've noticed that casks, maybe some of those island matured casks have a lot, that lovely kind of saltiness that comes through specifically. Nothing to do, I doubt very much, with the process. It's the end process and the casking that makes that. And then some of those casks that you get from other parts of the country, other parts of the world where the heat has intensified in the cask. Maybe we've lost more water than alcohol.
Oh
in some places, So it really is really interesting.
It's impossible to know the split between the two. It's just the cask. Without good spirit, the cask is worthless. But it's still going to be. You can take any spirit and change it to whatever you kind of need. You want it to be, or you need it to be, as long as the spirit is originally good.
I think we have a debate. You're part of this debate now. We're going to get you onto the debate and the festival. You're definitely now on the panel. It's done.
My niche here is small barrels, virgin oak barrels. You know, I'm not going to be a professor on anything apart from.
You don't need to be a professor. Tell me this: what kind of, where are you getting your virgin oak barrels from? Where are they coming from? Any Irish oak in there?
I have a little experiment coming up with some Irish oak that is coming out of my father's house. Actually, we have a few trees there that one of them specifically had to be kind of, I'm not going to get a barrel out of it, or unfortunately, a lot of it was cut up for firewood before people realized that I wanted it. But I'm going to experiment probably in a I'll try and get a kind of more dead cask, some kind of third fill or fourth fill bourbon or something, and maybe re-char it, and then kind of put in those oak pieces that from my own place or whatever, and just to try and really suck out all the flavor of the oak, see what it's about, and see what you can do from there, because I've never tasted, I never had the opportunity to taste, Baoilleach or any of those kind of things. So, I'll do it for myself. That's kind of the way.
Well, tell you what, the tree experiments from Ideal have been great. The Bluebell, the Baoilleach and Knockgrath have been absolutely fantastic. I would honestly, I've been lucky enough to try them all, like every one of them, and side by side. At intervals, and they've been great, absolutely great. Because that shows you one specific thing about the casking. These are the same freaking casks; they're just different trees.
Yeah,
and massive differences in flavor profiles.
But what was the overriding, flavor? Was it extra spice? Extra vanilla?
No, that's interesting, because there wasn't specifically that overriding flavor. So in the Knockgrath, which is the most recent one, there was, actually in both the last two, so the Bluebell and the Knockgrath, there were variants within that, maybe one cask, maybe two casks, which lost a lot of that pot still spice, and it was overcome by sweetness. So there was strong, like I'm thinking about. In the Bluebell range, there was one of them, I think it might have been number 5. I'd have to go and check. I did notes on it, but one of them specifically had, it was like strawberry jam. I mean, those kind of notes, and it was like, wow, this is more than just the spiciness. There weren't, there was somewhere, maybe there was even a vanilla kind of note coming through, but they weren't overly. All of them, I couldn't have said this is the exact note that carried. There was lovely pot still spice. That's fine. We get that from the spirit. But those casks really had really different meaning to them. And I think that's something maybe you need to do that. Maybe I might have a set for you to try. And you can try that.
Yeah, because
I think I might have a wee sample set of the Knockgrath available for you, Michael. I give you a set of that for you to try.
Oh, okay? It's fair play, because that's something. Because funnily enough, this is the type of stuff that you get into when you're running a small operation. That I noticed down the road, about 10 kilometers, the ESB were felling trees, and I noticed that one or two of them were oaks, and they just left them there just to rot. And they've been sitting there now a year, and I think it's about time. Well, you see, the thing is, I asked the ESB, who owns those? Any chance I could take them? Oh no, we aren't that landowners. We just clear the lines, and so there's 2 big lumps of oak sitting down there, and I have to go now and find the landowner, get permission, probably, have to give them some money. Et cetera. But then you have to find a guy. I know a little bit about repairing barrels and charring them, but coopering them is probably a bit of a push even for me.
Yeah, you need a decent, someone who's actually going to be able to manipulate that tree for you.
Yeah. Well, I have a guy who's a local sawmill.
Yes.
He'll cut the lumber, and I can leave it here and season it for it's 2 years. You need to season it for, and then try and find a guy that has the skills. Like there's only 3 or 4 coopers in all of Ireland.
Yeah. Is the guys in Neffin, are they doing cooperage?
Yeah. I think somebody else took on a few people. Was it Tullamore Dew brought on 2 guys?
Yeah, I saw that recently. Yeah. Was it Tullamore? Yeah, I thought I saw something.
Tullamore, and so they're very, very sparse on the ground, but there's loads of possibilities that you could do this, and I'm sure there's enough oak trees around that are being blown down in the wind and having to be felled here and there to start producing some, super authentic Irish whiskey. It couldn't be more authentic than
but by using I just think we probably don't have enough woods in order to keep it going for long term kind of.
No.
There's bound to be oak trees being felled all round the country.
Yeah.
We just don't have massive oak forests anymore, but we've got like the random oak trees which are going to be getting moved. Yeah. There's more bog oak in Ireland than in the forest, and that's interesting. I drove through. Where was I driving through? Oh, was it mid part of Ireland? I can't,
Longford?
No.
Offaly?
County Offaly.
Yeah.
County Offaly. Mass amount of peat bogs, yeah?
Yeah. That's where, Bordnamona is based mostly.
Yeah. So, and I think Nick's probably got a good point there. So, that'd be interesting. Who's used bog oak in the pack? Connemara, did they use a bog oak?
I think West Cork.
West Cork
did it once, right? I don't know exactly what it was. Was it what can you do with a piece of, like, there's no way you're digging up a piece of bog oak and making a barrel out of it. I know that much. So were they burning it to smoke the barrel or throwing in pieces in there or something? I have no idea. But yeah, look, it's all over the place. But it's another interesting thing. It's the same as the guys that are doing the seaweed. I think it's getting popular in Japan. Is it I can't remember the brand, but
Curragh.
What's it called?
Is it called Curragh?
Yeah. That's it. I tasted it. I liked it.
Yeah,
it was
they're doing right.
Yeah, kind of a little bit weird, but nice. Enjoyable. Weird. I liked it. But the seaweed. Sure, who knows? You could have a poitín. Is seaweed a root vegetable?
That's interesting. What is it classified as?
It's a vegetable.
Is it a vegetable and people eat it? There you go. So I mean, it's
it's bound. Maybe that's something that we could do. We could do a 90% or a 60% malt barley, 30% unmalted barley or oats. 15% potato and 5% seaweed.
Let's bring in the seaweed into the fermentation. Here, listen, I think it'd be sure. Why not? Genuinely, why not? Do you know what I mean? Sure, we can experiment to our heart's content.
Michael,
I'm going to say I've had you on for absolute ages. These are normally meant to last 40 minutes, not an hour and 40 minutes.
Jesus, is that how long it's been?
Listen, I've loved our chat. Writer's Tier Seaweed IPA cast was nice. There you go. Can you maceration of seaweed after it? Can you maceration of seaweed?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the seaweed.
There you go, Nick. Here we go.
Okay, right. Over in France, they I can't remember the exact species of seaweed, but it's widely available. And I think they were using it. There's so much sugar in the seaweed. They were using it as through some kind of processes, they were actually extracting the sugar, and it was being used as a pharmaceutical ingredient. So it is possible. I'm pretty sure it'd be possible that there is extracts that can come from the seaweed and be fermentable as sugars. It would probably take a little bit of experimentation to see if maybe the enzymes from malt barley would, interact with those sugars or with those starches to, turn it to sugar. But there definitely is sugar in seaweed, and it is a known process because they make soap and they make a lot of products out of seaweed.
Do you know what I really like? I'm okay for seaweed. Like, seaweed's okay. I mean, I don't mind seaweed, right? And actually, depending on how it's presented, it's really, it's really nice. It's quite a delicacy with some food. But do you know what I really like? That sandfire.
The green.
Can we make whiskey from that?
That would be a push, I would say, because it's a kind of a but you could extract the flavor from it.
Salty.
The flavor is the most important part in that piece of the picture, I suppose. But anything is possible, Paul. Anything is possible.
We're going to try some impossible stuff to make it possible. Michael, Sláinte, thank you very much for the evening. We should get speaking to you very soon. Yeah.
Take it easy. Could I just ask you, what's the date for the festival?
I like this, 23rd to 31st of July. I like the way you're pushing that. That's good.
Oh, good man, good man. So,
listen.
I hear there's beds going on your kitchen floor.
Oh, you heard that last night. That was funny, eh? 100%. We need to sleep on the kitchen floor. The kitchen's nearly finished. Plumbers are nearly gone. And we're doing well. Listen, Sláinte to everyone who's here. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone. Bye. Good luck.